Welcome back to Dowra Models. So I'm making a start on the Toyota Castol Celica rally car from the 1993 Monte Carlo rally, and as you can see I'm going to make a start on the chassis. This is what's called curbside kit, in that it doesn't actually have any real engine detail. So if you look at the body part of it, it just sits there, the bonnet doesn't open or anything like that, and you just get this basic moulding for the sump, for the bottom area. So it should be a fairly simple kit to make. So we made a start cutting the parts off the sprues, and as you can see in this one, you've got these lumps, mould marks from where the injection moulding happened, and then where it's attached to the sprue, and obviously this seam line and stuff like that. So I'm going to start by cleaning all of those up. So using a sharp knife, I'm just cutting off any excess, and then I'm just going to scrape along that seam line like that. So there's various methods people use for doing this. You could sand it off, cut it off, various other things, but they're the two main ones, but I prefer to use a knife. You just take it easy. I'm sure if it's actually in focus here. Just let the blade do the work, not putting too much effort into it. And once I've got the bulk of the material off, I'll probably go over with a sanding stick anyway, just to finish it off. But what I'm doing is I'm not trying to take it all off at once. As you can see, I'm turning the part so that I'm just taking off a small part at a time. And then again, where you've got that there, I'll probably use the sanding stick to clean that up properly. But this is what I do with every part on the models that I make, to go around, make sure that there's no visible marks from the mould process or any imperfections anywhere. So I'm going to go around, finish all these parts off, and I'll come back when I'm ready for the next part. So I'll see you in a minute. Alright, okay, I'm in the spray booth now, as you can see, so I'm ready to start painting. So to start with, I've got the Zero Paints grey primer and my airbrush, so I'll just turn the extractor fan on and then we'll get spraying. So as always, just check your flow is coming out, and then just light mist coats on the part and build the layers up with the paint. So same process as you've seen in my other videos if you watched them. So don't need to go heavy with this, but you do want to get a full coverage. So like I said, just building the layers up nicely. So that's the first part done, as you can see. So I'm going to whiz through because I've got quite a few parts to do, and I will come back when I've got all of those done. So I'll see you shortly. Okay, as you can see there, I've got all of the parts for this video all primered up now, and there's quite a few of them. These are all of the components to making up the chassis and the suspension components and all of the running gear and everything. So that's what this video is going to be covering. So my next step is to work out what colour each part's going to be and sort out batches for doing that. So I'll go off camera again, do all of that, work out what colour is going to be what and everything, and then I'll come back when I'm ready to start putting some colour down. So I've done a little bit of work since I showed you the start of the priming, and painted the chassis with Zero Paints Brilliant White, and then I've used some carbon Kevlar decals for the front wheel wells, as you can see there, and then I've just used a clear lacquer over it, just to sort of seal it all in, and I've done the same on the under tray part here. So what I'm going to do now is mask it off. So this is the template that I used for the masking for that, so I've kept that so that I can use that to mask it off again, ready for painting the next bit. And it's lost a little bit of its stickiness, but for the most part I can reuse it. So I'm just going to wrap all of this around it, get a cocktail stick and just push that down into the corners there. Same along that edge there. So this will protect it all on that carbon fibre for painting the next part, which is going to be black, I think. And then I can obviously detail the chassis parts as well there. So that's what I used, like I said, as a template for the carbon fibre, and then I just applied that in one piece. So that's all on there nicely now. And then I'm going to do the same on this. I'll mask up around the engine, so just a few strips of tape on that. It's a fairly basic masking job, and then just tighten up around there, and then I'll do the next part painting. So I've got a few bits to mask up, but for the most part all of my components are all in primer and ready to go. So I'll see you in the spray booth in a second. Right, so I've just been doing a bit more prep work, painting some bits up ready before going on to the next parts. So the first thing I did was to paint the springs yellow, and for that I used the Tamiya X8 from their enamel range, and I also did the rear prop shafts or drive shafts, the front back parts with that, and that was over grey primer. The springs were over white primer, and then over that I then used Alclad's polished brass just to give it a bit of a sort of more metallic-y sort of look. So now I'm ready to move on to the next parts. So what I've done, as I said previously, was I've masked off the chassis, and I've only done the front end. I'm not going to bother doing the back of it, and I've just put a bit of tape there, which as you can see is lifted up just to try and prevent some overspray on there. So the first thing I want to paint is Alclad aluminium, which I'm going to do on the radiator, and there's a few other bits that I'm going to paint with that as well. So I should have prepped this beforehand and put it in the airbrush, but I haven't, so if you just bear with me, I'll just give it a shake up and put it in the airbrush quickly. Right, now just turn the compressor on. The extractor fan rather. So just check the paint flow's coming out, which it is. So a few light mist coats over that radiator section. I'm just going to be careful to keep it within that mask area so that I don't get any overspray in the wheel wells or any of the other parts. So I don't want to spray that carbon fibre bits that did, and do the same from the top. And what you'll see as well is I've put some masking tape on the top of where the suspension struts go, just to prevent any bleed through on there as well when I was doing that. So I'll leave that to dry for a bit because I'll need to mask that off in a bit. So the next things I want to do are all of the suspension upright parts. So there's 8 of those in total, so I'll paint these next. So I'm really liking this new, well, I don't know how new, this metallic range of metal paints that Zero paints are producing. They go down really nicely, and they have a nice metallic fleck to it, which isn't overscale like some of the paints that you can get, but Zero's quite good at getting a small particle in the paints to look more accurate in scale. So you can see on that one, if it make sure it's focused, very fine flake in that, which is really nice. So I'm going to do another couple of bits and then I'll come back to the next bit. With the exhaust, I've painted that up with the Zero Paints steel from their metal range, and then I've just masked off for the silencer on the tip, on the end, and I've used Outcloud Jet exhaust just in the end of the tip there, just to give it a bit of darkness in the tip. So I'm just going to spray that carefully just to give it a slightly different colour. I mean, you can see in there the colour variation on it, and this will get sort of weathered up and a bit of heat staining applied to it as well. So if we just remove this bit of masking tape, and then hopefully you can see the colour variation there between the silver and the steel, the aluminium and the steel, just to like I say, give it a bit of colour variation in it. So there's a few more pieces that I've got to do, as you can see, which are going to be all in semi-gloss black. Which are those pieces? So I'll go off and I'll spray those, and then I'll show you the next bit, because I've obviously got to mask these up before I do that. So I'll show you where I'm at once I've done that. Right, so the last bit that I'm going to airbrush in this part of the video is the engine. So as you can see there, I've just masked off and sprayed the sump yellow. The instructions are a bit funny. They say to mix, what was it, flat brown and silver together, which is a bit strange, but I've decided I'm going to spray it yellow and then unmask it and spray this one, the metallic grey, over it and see what happens. So I don't actually know what colour the sump is on the real one. I was struggling to find any decent reference photos, so I thought I'll let some artistic license come into play with it. And see if it actually shows through or not. I don't know whether it's going to make any difference or not, but yeah, I don't know whether it shows on camera very well, but it has got a browny sort of goldy kind of tint to it. So all I was looking for was something to change the colour slightly, which it served the purpose for what I want. It's probably not accurate, but that's going to do me for this. So it's going to get dirtied up and weathered anyway. So I'll see you shortly for the next section. Okay, as you can see, I've got all of the components painted up and sort of detailed now, and I've assembled the suspension sections with the brakes. And I'm not overly impressed with the Hobby Design brakes, because as you can possibly see there, the rotation of the discs goes the same direction, and obviously they're supposed to be directional, so they're supposed to be opposites. The same with the fronts, that they're all going that same direction. which is annoying. So one side is going to be wrong. But I've painted up the exhaust to resemble a bit of heat staining, as you'd expect from a steel one. It's not got sort of blues and reds and stuff like that. I've just used a few alclads. I used the hot sepia as a base colour on the bends, and then I went over it with the burnt iron and pale burnt metal, just to give it a bit of colour variation. And then, as I showed you on the previous part, the exhaust has got jet exhaust in the centre of it before I painted the aluminium on there. So everything's been given a oil wash and or a silver dry brushing on some of the components, so it's like on the suspension bars here, we're just given a bit of dry brushing and picked out a few bits in silver, and then things like that were dry brushed and given a black oil wash, as was the main section and the engine. So it's a little bit grubby looking on that engine, but it's going to get weathered up anyway, so it doesn't really matter too much. So let's get started with this next section. What I'm going to do is put it all together. So the first bit to attach will be this bit, and it just sits down there. So I've got some Tamiya cement that I'm going to use. You don't want loads of this. I'll put a little bit in there, and put a bit in there, and that just attaches down there, and that bit in that hole there. And before I started all of this, I put some liquid mask in all of the holes, which I've now removed, so I can use the plastic cement on it without having to worry about any bad joints or anything like that. So that one goes in there, and then that back part goes in there. So again, just a little bit of glue on it. These parts don't need loads. But what I don't want to do is push that other part out from underneath, which I've just done. So that's the exhaust in, and then I've got this rear axle there, which is going to go over that bit there and over the exhaust. So same again, bit of glue just on those pins. Doesn't need any more than that for these parts. So that's that bit in there, and then when I find it, just have a look at that. If you look at that, you can see that it's got a bend in it. These side bits go up as I'm currently holding it, so you need to make sure that you get the orientation on that right, otherwise you'll have problems. So I think it goes that way. So that one goes in first, and then it feeds through these two holes here, and then the suspension just goes into the bottom there. And that one goes in there, and that clips onto there, like that. And then what you'll get is the ability, once that top part's on, just it will represent sort of working steering, so it's positionable where you want it to be. So then the next bit on there is to glue this piece on. So I'm just going to check how it fits on there first. So there you can see the steering working now. So that sits nicely on there. So I'll just put some glue on these pieces. Obviously I don't want to put any where the steering section is because I don't want to stop that from working. So I'll leave that with no glue on it. Check that's working properly again. That's all where it needs to be. And then onto the back section. So then I've got this rear cage here, which is going to sit like that. And on the back part there where it attaches, it was not overly easy to work out the positioning of that to mask it off. So what I'm going to do with that section is I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue on the back parts of that. So I'll just put some in my, if it comes out, I'm getting low on it. There we go. So just put some in my little tub there. Just put a little bit of glue on there. A little bit of glue on there. Get that out of the way. And then go back to the Tamiya cement of these front sections. So I'll position those first. I'll locate the back ones then, and then I've just got to do this rear section for the things. I just realised I've forgotten to put this on, which wants to go under the exhaust. So if I carefully try and position that, I should have done this before the exhaust as I just said, but I missed it. Just see if I can get that located where it wants to be. So that wants to go there. There we go. So that's okay. That's not too difficult. So if I get a pair of tweezers, just lift that out, and I can put a little bit of glue into there. That front section is holding itself in, so I don't need to worry about any glue on there. So last section is the rear suspension struts. So I'm going to go in like that. So if I put a bit of glue on there, and then drop that one in. And that'll be okay when I put the top parts on. Do the same on this side. I think it's when I'm putting it down on the bench that it's pushing it through at the bottom. So, last two pieces, these two, and I think I forgot to put some liquid mask in these two holes, so I'll just put bit of super glue in there now. My preference with this is to mask it where I want to glue it, and then I don't have to worry about these parts. But as I said, I've missed that bit, so that's that one. So if I put a bit of glue, and a bit of glue on that, a bit of glue on there, position that one first, position that, and that goes on top of there, like so. And then same on this one. Where's it gone? Make sure that's positioned properly where it wants to be, because at the moment it's not quite in there. There we go, that's in, so now I can put that one in, make sure that's there. So there we go, that's the underside of the Celica done. So I will leave that for it to set fully with the glue, and then I'll move on to the next section in the next video. So that will be the interior. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and found it useful or enjoyable or whatever. So thank you for staying, and I'll see you next time.